Now that you have taken a decision that you need to think about this a little more, put your toe in the water and see how warm it is, let me talk about possible ways you could think about implementing some of the organizational changes which I'm talking about, moving from a pyramid-based organization to more collaborative enterprise, which I call a STAR. In any transformation journey, we have to learn from our past, and I think philosophically, I always believe that transformation should be caused through catalyst actions, not mass changes, but catalyst actions which are small, have huge impact on the organization or on your teams. So while I walk through the how of possible change from a pyramid organization to a STAR organization, do remember that do not try and undertake, or at least my advice is not to undertake a mass change that one day you arrive in office, call your team and saying, you know what, I heard Vineet talk about this, I like it, I want to change. Don't do that. I think of small catalyst actions, and we will talk a bit more about that a bit later. But the first step to transformation, I would believe, is to go back in history and see how did Nelson Mandela, how did Gandhi, how did Martin Luther King, all these my heroes, I call them heroes, achieve transformation. I think they did 3 simple steps which are very interesting for us to learn from. First, they showed us the mirror and said that wherever you are a slave, or you are apartheid, or you are not free, and they created what I call a dissatisfaction with our current being today. We honestly looked at the mirror, we understood where we are, we felt unhappy with where we are. That's the first step. The second step which they did was they created a vision for tomorrow. You can be free. The vision for tomorrow of freedom, or whatever that new vision is so compelling that people start believing that their unhappiness with this current today and their happiness with the vision of future, what I call the romance of tomorrow, is so attractive that they do want to go there. So you create the need for change by these 2 actions. And then what you do is you connect the dots. And these leaders connected the dot, led masses and masses of population towards their vision, and everybody followed. So they led from behind by ideas and by creating unsatisfaction with today and a promise of tomorrow, which is what I call a romance of tomorrow. Now that we have understood these 3 simple steps from transformation point of view, what specific steps can you take in your organization or your team to bring about this change? And I think the steps are the same. The first step is what I call the mirror mirror. The reason I call this a mirror mirror is exactly like these 3 leaders did. You need to go back to your team and honestly communicate your current position. Honestly communicate whether you are a leader or you have conveniently sliced and diced the data to make yourself a leader. And in 90% of the cases, if you are honest, you will find that actually you have conveniently positioned yourself as a relative leader, but in absolute form, you know in your heart there are miles to go. And I think creating the need for change through a mirror mirror exercise is very critical, because unless you are honest where you are today, you will not change. So that's the point A, and then create the point B in terms of what is your vision, where do you want to go, what is the aspiration, where does your team want to go, and then get a sense, does the team buy into that argument which you are professing or not. So that's a mirror mirror, getting your point A and getting your point B together. The second step which you need to do, in my mind, is after creating the need for change, create a culture for change. Unfortunately, in the environment which we are in today, with Lehman Brothers and a lot of organizations falling flat, the trust quotient between the employees and the management is at its lowest. And for the right reason, right? Most management behaved very aligned to stock markets and not aligned to employees, or even for that matter, customers. And therefore, the trust quotient is very weak. And therefore, when you say, trust me, I would say, why should I? And to create the culture of trust should be the second step. How do you create the culture of trust? I believe one way you could do that is by pushing the envelope of transparency. The higher degree of transparency you exhibit with your teams and your organization, the more trust you would create. So we talked about creating a need for change and then creating an environment or a culture for change. Now you're ready for change. The third step is what I call invert the pyramid. And the reason invert the pyramid is important is for the value reasons and value zones I talked about. How do you invert the pyramid? You invert the pyramid through small catalyst actions, and we will talk about them, by making the management as accountable to the employees as the employees are accountable to the management. And you start inverting by going and taking some small actions, but philosophically believe that the management has to be accountable to employees as much as employees are accountable to the management. And we'll talk a bit more about how you can go about doing that. And the fourth step, which is very important, is what I call destroy the office of the manager or destroy the office of the CEO. What I mean to say is transfer the ownership of change, transfer the ownership of transformation, transfer the ownership of innovation back to the employees. And if you do that, then the true innovation, the true value really gets created. So I would say these 4 steps introduced in your team into the organization using small catalyst ideas are going to do wonderful things, are going to start doing wonderful things in your organization. And it has worked for me. I think you should also try, and it will work for you.